All right, so we're sitting here with Charlie Weiss
That's my grandson, Doug, right here.
and his grandfather.
I'm the grandfather. Just to keep it straight, I'm a biped, and Charlie is a quadruped.
All right, so who are you?
Today,
Yes.
I'm the world's greatest out-of-work Jewish bebop clarinetist.
Okay, so for those that haven't seen the last video, there's a sort of a Mort Weiss raw where he does a little, it's mostly focused on the clarinet playing, but you said you're out of work. So have you always been out of work, or what? Now you're a jazz clarinetist, but how have you made your living all your life?
Mostly playing rock and roll, tenor sax, back in the day, which was like 1956 when I got out of the Army to 1965. But I always preferred the clarinet, and I practiced it a lot. And then, should I say anything about my articles that tell all this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
For those of you who might know, I do an article for the world famous, most respected, largest jazz website called allaboutjazz.com. And it's mostly autobiographical. I was asked to come and write about things for myself because I was kind of a nondescript. I've worn many hats. But back to your question, after 1965 I went to work in a music store as a clerk in a musical instrument store, selling guitars and amps and things. I was in Los Angeles, California. That's where I grew up at, in Hollywood. I was born in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. That's about 13 miles out of Pittsburgh. And my family, my mother and father, we came to California in 1945. I was 10 years old. You can do the math and you'll probably come up with 1935 as a birth date. April 20th, if anybody, PayPal? Okay. That's right, I'm not supposed to do that. Is this a serious interview, or is this, I lace it with my own?
You be yourself.
Be myself?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can steer you a little bit. I'm a little curious about how, why don't you start from when you got out of the Army? Now, you covered a little bit of your Army in the last video. What did you do with your life right after the Army? What happened?
I went to work as a sideman, meaning as not a leader, but in different bands, playing northern Nevada, like Winnemucca, Nevada, Ely, Nevada, Elko, Tonopah, places like that. And that's way, I mean, these towns, like I've explained, they were owned by, literally, it was like the Wild West. This was 1956. One man owned the town. I mean, he had all the money. I keep thinking of Ely, Nevada. The guy's name was Bud Simpson. I think I can say that now. He owned the Bank Club. He owned, that's where we played. I was with Jimmy Vay, who was a vibraphone player, and Harry Hellings Jr., a trumpet player, Stuart Crandall on drums, who's not with us anymore. He met an ignominious ending, which will be another story. Fell under a freight train accidentally at a school crossing, but well, there's a lot of color slides on that one. I'm thinking of doing a independent movie on that. The demise of Stuart Crandall. Somebody told him to take his drums and to beat it, and he really took it seriously, but the dude was simple-minded. So, you know, he crashed it out in that one, and what was the question again?
Well, did you? If I remember correctly, I'm the son here. If I haven't introduced myself, I'm Mike Weiss.
Mike Weiss.
So what I really want to dig into, if you're willing to go there, these are not easy topics depending on what mood people are in. Things that come to my mind are ice cream truck driver. Some of the other jobs you did that were not related.
Yeah, but I was starting to fall apart.
Okay, so there.
I got hooked on drugs and alcohol.
What was your drug of choice?
My drug of choice was Benzedrine uppers with 100 proof Smirnoff vodka, 3 packs of Salem's a day, and occasional some pot. I didn't groove with pot too much, man. I got too relaxed. I dug as being stimulated, and to get a nice groove going with I knocked down about 2 15 milligram bennies with about 3 glasses, not shots, of 100 proof Smirnoff. And well, when I was in the Army, man, I ended up in Kansas, where it's a dry state, you're not allowed to drink, but they have packaged liquor stores. where the state gets money, and they were selling for human consumption 190 proof grain alcohol. Once, of course, I had to try that. I hear the dog drinking water. That means he's going to get wet. Okay. It was raining cats and dogs, and I stepped in on. Take it, Mike. Poodle. Okay. Anyway.
A poodle.
I was drinking 190 proof grain alcohol, and that's where I first fell in love. It turned out it was a fucking fire hydrant, but that will also be in another video. So, anyway, I was a dope fiend, an alcoholic, schizoid, psychopathic schizoid. I ended up naked in a padded cell in Parker Center. That was a police building in downtown Los Angeles. How I got there is it's going to be a major motion picture. Mars, when we first land, they're getting the sets ready.
And let me just jump in. So, because the interesting thing that to me is that you're talking about heavy drug use and alcohol use. You're talking about a padded cell.
I never stuck a needle in my arm.
Talking about a padded cell at toward the end of this thing, and fast forward to, I know, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but I know that you built your own business from the ground up, a successful business, and I've been on your yacht. I know you were an international yacht racer, racer of all the way to a ranch in Texas.
Yep.
That's a little unusual, wouldn't you say?
Very.
Now, let me ask you something. Were you drugging it up during your performance time, like in Vegas and such? Were you using
Yes.
drugs then?
Yes.
Okay, and was that just to stay awake, or was that?
Did get high because it felt good.
Okay, and so speaking of Vegas, and we're going to jump around here a little bit. Did you ever play with any big names, people that somebody might
In
recognize?
Vegas?
Anywhere.
Oh yeah, and I have another jazz career. Where
Yes.
I did with Joey DeFrancesco and Terry Gibbs and.
How about in the old
Stan
days?
Most and all that.
In the old days, I mean, did
The old
you?
days, no. I jammed with Monster Cats, and I talked. Let me just put a plug on. There's an article. It's all you have to do. But I should have started out the things with just Google Mort Weiss. That's all you have to do. And when you do that, you're going to see an article written by someone in. And I'm being a little, holding back on someone because they're right under a nom de plume. And well, if I can't really tell you any more than that. It's called Mort to Come. It really is it's a great profile on me by a fan of mine in the UK. And the name of that fan is Sammy Stein, and that's about as much as I can tell you. It's one of the highest read articles that All About Jazz has on it. And it's the story of my life, and this person really gets it pretty succinctly about me and how exciting I was. Excuse me. Yeah,
Stay with us. Stay with us.
Yes. I'm an old guy now. You have to understand that. I'm an old guy.
How old are you?
I'm 79. I'll be 80 years old next April. What is that, a half a year?
Yeah. Yeah, that's when you're going to jump out of an airplane.
Oh, I might jump. I'm going to jump out of an air. I just got over a very heavy-duty illness, and I'm building my strength back up. I lost all function of being able to talk and speak, but it seems to be coming back. I really built myself.
Yeah, and I can direct anybody watching this that's interested in those details to direct to the other video, which is it's going to be on the same channel
Is there
here.
a name for that video?
Yeah, it's Mort Weiss.
In Virginia.
It's going to be Mort Weiss Raw is the name of the video, and that'll be the first of a series.
That's the only way Mort Weiss has ever been. Yeah, just to be Mort Weiss is kind of raw, man.
Well, so okay, let me ask you this: how about some highs and lows? Give me the lowest point in your life.
Last September, when my wife filed for divorce after 40 years of marriage and 2 years of going courtship.
And what have you done to cope with that? How are you coping with
Well,
that?
as you know, Michael, my son has been a very strong supporter with me, and I've met some friends on Facebook that have really helped me a lot. Somebody would have told me years ago I would get anything from Facebook or some social networking media. Me? Come on, man.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I know you and I spent an awful lot of time talking about the magic of the internet in general and the social impact of Facebook and social media. What are your thoughts about that? Where is that going? What could you have done had you had access to something like Facebook back in the day?
Back in the day?
Yeah.
I would have owned the world. I mean, the music part of the world. How you can promote your own gigs and have people on this and so-and-so's, I get this all the time, so-and-so's appearing in such a club. hit the button if you're going to attend. If you're not going to attend, why are you declining? I mean, it's just really kind of in your face, but I dig it, you know, and I would put my own spin on it. You know, I would tell them I would get them loaded in the parking lot. You know, anything to get them there, man. You know. Yeah, it's actually, I feel that right now at this point in historic mankind and human development, that we're in a major evolutionary mode that will be looked back 500 years from now, if there are people looking back, that will be more predominant than the Industrial Revolution as far as changing the direction of mankind as we know it and as it's been progressing since the Luddites. And those of you familiar with the Luddites, you know, essentially their axiom, their motto is what's the other word? It's good enough. Nothing should be done for the first time. I rather like the American Gothic, the dude with the spade and his wife, you know. By the way, that's a very interesting thing to look up. Google that, because it's nothing like I thought. The people that posed for that, they're real people. They were like relatives of the photographer. But I digress, and I do that all the time, and especially after a large meal.
Now let me ask you something, because you
Jump around.
yeah, we're going to jump around here, and again, always feel free to just to bypass the subject. Let me just ask you this: do you believe in God?
And God is a personal God that keeps score on Mort Weiss, and if I do good, I'm going to get brownie points.
Yeah.
Define that, boy.
Do you believe that? Let me ask you this: do you think that life in general is a spontaneous thing, or do you think it's controlled?
Sir, to answer that, it's almost like when you start beating your wife. I'm not trying to be evasive here. I don't believe in a personal God. I don't believe in. There's no way I could. Not as we're filming this, and it's the old axiom was the word I was trying to find. That little Haji is somewhere with a bloated belly, man, starving to death in Botswana. Why am I not? Am I favored? If I am, well, and if there's a heaven, and if I'm going to go by God, dude's got some heavy questions he's going to have to answer to me, man. And that's the way I feel. Watch out for the lightning.
What would you ask him if a God showed
Why
up?
the fucking game? Why does one have to earn brownie points? Why did you set it up this way? What is the difference? And this has been asked by many people. There's nothing original here. Many of you who are watching this are crossing themselves so you don't get struck by lightning listening to this fucking heathen. You know, dude, Auschwitz, come on, man.
Do you think that the world is in danger of forgetting the lessons of Auschwitz?
Is it in danger of what?
Forgetting the lessons of Auschwitz and of the Holocaust?
Already, haven't they?
Yeah.
Cambodia and all that. And come on. You know, man's humanity, the man rules. What's going on now in the Mideast? This is 2014. What are we in? We're in August. This you know, little dudes are being beheaded and everything by people that are doing this shit for religion, ISIS and all of Islam. And don't give me that shit that, you know, Islam is a religion of loving, man. It sucks. I've read enough of the Quran to know, man, that I'm on the hit list. If the dude was in here, man, with his fucking mask and his knife, man, I could, if I didn't go Allah Akbar, y'all, man, I'd be history. I might be history. I'd be making this fucking video.
Well, what's your response to somebody that says it's just a few bad apples?
They spoil the bunch. That's the response. And the bunch is a threat to me.
Very good.
It sucks. And it's, let's not get too far off the thing. And they're doing it for a God figure. So, ergo, God, however God manifests itself to any particular group of people, and to keep him happy, will do jack shit to anybody, to anything, because it pleases God. I'd rather worship the great turtle on the rock, man. And I don't want God doing me any favor. I'll tell you what I missed most, because I'm Jewish. Well, I don't, you can't be Jewish and not believe in God. Well, that's true. I identify with the Jewish people. I was bar mitzvah. I can still read Hebrew. I know about the Torah. I know how to daven. there's two countries I would die for in this order. I would die for the United States of America, and I did my 2 years in the Army. I didn't join. They called for me. I showed up, and I would die for Israel. Why? Because I identify with the Israeli people, man, because there's 6 million of them. A strange figure, I know. It kind of coincides with Auschwitz, and Belsen, and Dachau, and I can't even say those names. The mere fact that there's Israel today is a bit of a miracle. Chosen people? Yeah, chosen for what, man? I mean, you know, think of the history, Inquisitions, shit like that. But what a group of people.
Well, it's funny that as we're talking about Israel, as we speak, Israel is exchanging, you know, missiles with Hamas, and this is probably known as the third, I would guess, intifada. So there are people dying
I
as
don't
we
watch
speak.
it. I don't have a television set.
But you have an extreme love of the country of Israel. I know this for a fact.
For the Israeli people.
For the Israeli people.
I'm proud to be in my lineage, in that I can do the Aliyah and go back and be accepted as a citizen because my mother was Jewish. Sucks in a way, but that's the way it is. I'm sure. I'm not Israelis are Semitic people. They look like Arabs. They're the same thing. They're cousins, all that. So there's intermarriage somehow. I'm second generation. My grandparents on my mother's side escaped, because that's what they did, from Russia, which was Ukraine. There was pogroms, not programs, pogroms, which means the same thing, against Jews. The anti-Semitism was just as vicious under Tsarist Russia. Well, damn near as vicious as under Himmler and Goebbels and Heydrich, the hangman. You know, we were just following orders, bullshit thing, man. And on my father's side, they're from Austria-Hungary. It used to be the Ottoman Empire. My grandfather, I say grandfather, in Yiddish is Baba and Zadie, is grandma and grandpa, and so to keep them separate, one was grandma and grandpa. And it's always Baba and Zadie, grandma and grandpa. And I thought about this, Mike, we never discussed it. The woman always gets top billing in a home. And I think that prevails in all, even Italian, Oriental. I mean, they're the homemakers. It's an aside. And okay.
My wife happens to be Vietnamese, and of course, my father knows that this is the way it is in this home as well. So yeah, it's very
we
cultural.
entrust that to them. But
now, what year? If you
let's get back to the God thing again, because
I'm not going to leave that.
I'm kind of blowing it off, and I'm not. Okay, there is so much structure. I'm kind of into from the micro to the macro. As a layman, I know a lot about quantum mechanics. I know a lot about classical physics. I know about Schrodinger's cat, the thought program. I know about Werner Heisenberg, uncertainty principle. I'm dropping it so you know about E equals MC squared. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Lorentz transformations, Ernest Mach, back to classical physics with Newton, and he didn't get hit on the head by an apple. And it was a cell phone, I think, fell out of a fucking something like that. It was big. Okay, and his brother Fig, but there's a lot of shit involved here, man. And I go back to the Upanishads. Look it up if you don't know what I'm saying. Upanishads, pre-Socrates, pre-Aristotelian, pre-Plato. The Upanishads from India, the forms of philosophical endeavor from that. Socrates, to me, and I've never heard it broached on or questioned, committed suicide. Now, for those of you, the uninitiated, Socrates never wrote anything down. It so happens Plato was his student. He sat at the master's feet. Plato wrote everything down before he got into his own stuff. He wrote everything down that Socrates said. Socrates never, we wouldn't be even talking about Socrates if it wasn't for Plato, man. Now, Socrates was a rabble-rouser. He pissed off the authorities in Greece. I forget the name of the city. They called him to the carpet. They told him, they said, okay, man, you got to stop preaching that shit or leave, get out of town, Socrates. And that's it. If you don't, you're going to have to drink this hemlock. It was a form of, hemlock is a poison. Okay, Socrates chose not to get out of town. He chose to throw a party, and his disciples were all there. Now, if he would have left town, he would have been admitting all his philosophical expedient endeavors were bullshit, man. He couldn't back up. His shit would have been weak, for those of you in Duluth. So he threw a party, and a glass of hemlock was there. Now, he could have left town, keep that in mind, and maybe come back. But people say, yeah, man, but the dude didn't believe strong enough to, okay, you got the picture. So Socrates drank the hemlock and he died, and we're talking about that. If he would have left town, probably wouldn't have been talking about it. Okay, I'm getting back to the Godhead again. There's such structure in the universe from the micro, I mean, from the Bose-Higgins, the God particle, the smallest thing we can conceive, all the way to the black holes, to the Oort cloud, to the belt that has all the comets and meteors. There's from a snowflake to Mount Vesuvius, to the moons of Jupiter, Jupiter itself, that the sun, if the sun were hollow, 1 million Earths can fit into the sun, which is a medium-sized star. The Jovan stars, the planets, are Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. Okay, we won't go down that line and make jokes out of Uranus. But it's tempting. We could put an asteroid, and oh no, I'm okay. I will not go there. I promised Mike that I would not get deep into the philosophical thoughts about
don't get deep into Uranus
and asteroids. No, I won't go there. And it's so soft that don't squeeze the. Okay. Do you know how many suns can fit inside Jupiter, Mike? I'm not trying to do that.
No.
4. 4 complete suns and 1 million Earths. Okay. From that little subatomic particle, there's structure. There's structure. Now the picture of the atom with the electron is bullshit. That it doesn't look that way. It's been used like, but it's accepted. Nobody has seen an atom. We all think they have. You can check me out on that. No one has seen an atom. We know by the effect on other little subatomic particles that an atom has to exist because of the magnetic and the resonance going on, blah, 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 blah. That shit didn't just happen out of nothing. We are just okay, I have to assume all of our listeners, lookers, people, viewers, if you still hung with me this far, how do you think my hair looks? Michael, okay, it's very important to me. When you get to be an old guy, we don't use words like terminal velocity, we use fast. Damn fast.
Fantastic hair you have.
Super fantastically fast, approaching velocity. There's got to be this structure. The structure in everything. DNA, the genomes, the shit that we're just discovering. See, the rate of discovery with our technology that's expanding exponentially so fast and so far out and so furious that we can't, as we speak, there's things that are going to be on in Scientific American tomorrow that nobody can keep up with. That's why I say we're in a state of evolution, major evolution. The kids come up, my son Michael and discover, they come home from school, they don't eat something, Skippy peanut butter, milk, go out and throw footballs. They go to their room. They're into computers. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, I grew up from 1935. There was still, not everybody had telephones. There was no TV. We listened to radio. I saw the onset of TV. I saw video games. I'm just getting down where I can play Pong kind of fast. Pong. Pac-Man. That was too hip for me. GT Auto, forget it, Charlie, man. Shit where you put yourself into a war situation, you see a guy, oh, pew! Yeah, you just, okay. And I've called this out years ago, that we're going to see, not television, we're going to have holograms inside of a room. And one can participate, talk about reality shows. We ain't seen nothing yet. I probably won't live to see it. Yeah, and I know we all go there. What you should do with sex and things like that. You know, yeah. I tried to do my own reality sex shows when I was on drugs. Some of it was pretty cool, come to think of it. I can't think of it too much.
They're still repainting fire hydrants from that incident.
Well, yeah, that was another story, man. Dogs would get in line, man. You know, look at that human doing that weird shit to a fire. And the fucking fire marshal used to be out. I say, hey man, don't knock it until you try it, you know. And we got to do a thing about the size of nostrils. We won't go there. We're talking about God, right? Okay, well, it's all the same thing, man. We don't know what the fuck's happening. We don't know we've never seen a black hole. People say, oh yeah, man, oh yeah, it's called computer graphics, man. The black hole, we don't know what they look at. We understand, once again, by this attraction, so other things and things happening around it. I just learned the other day from my son, man, that in carbon dating, I thought they were right on the object. Now, because a stone is not, are we sure about that?
Yeah, what he's talking about is, one of my hobbies is arrowhead collecting. And we were talking about the carbon dating process, and what I was informing him was that you don't carbon date the arrowhead itself because it's not organic. You carbon date the organic material that's at the level the specimen was recovered from, and then that's how you get an idea of.
I bet I'm not the only person who didn't know that.
And it's not very exact because there's, Earth moves and shifts and landslides and such.
But, we're talking about religion, but don't forget, one book from the world about math and fractions believes that the Earth is 6,000 years old. But if they're happy, wonderful. Let me tell you one thing. Okay, I do, and I'm, as one gets toward the end of the path and the trail, I do kind of envy people, man, that believe 100%, that they're going to go to a better existence. And I'm not saying they're not. I might wake up and be in another form somewhere, then we can get into karma, we can get into... I don't know. And let me tell you something, I don't give a shit. And that's not whistling in the graveyard or in the dark. I went through all the stuff in my life, man, of worrying about things and all that. Is that for me or the dog?
That's the dog. Okay. I'm trying to keep him from barking.
Okay. So anyway, if
are you saying
the God thing?
No, because I want to know. Are you referring to? Because the question
Afraid
next.
to die?
No, not fear. The next question was going to be, do you have a hypothesis in terms of what happens after you die?
I have no idea.
Do you have any? You don't care, or do you? Yeah. What are your thoughts about what happens after you die, Charlie?
Is that me or the dog?
That's.
Because I thought that was a hell of an answer.
I'm out of camera. You can.
I like that answer, man. I have no idea, except I wouldn't want to be involved with a lot of people that I've met, man, and say, well, you're up here for eternity with these assholes. Now, I'm going to get behind the camera and ask me a question. I believe in King Neptune. I think we're all going to go to the bottom of the sea. You know that prong thing? It's called a trident. Because if you haven't had a dent, you got to try it. And is that for me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because I'm starting to fall asleep. And anyway, no, I don't know what happens. I don't give a shit what happens. And I'll deal with it if I'm in a dealing mood, whatever comes on. I've never fucked over anybody intentionally that I know of. Now, I could have done a Pollyanna transfix. I guess probably Hitler thought he was doing pretty good too. So, Attila Hun, guys like that. Well, I'm doing this right, I'm squishing babies. Well, there's got to be and I don't think anybody realizes that I'm an asshole. I don't think anybody wakes up and says, I'm gonna make the world a worse fucking place than it is. That's my mission for today. They just go do it. But what makes them wrong? Well, because the majority of people are, I'm starting to sound like George Carlin. Next question.
Well, is the world, and this is a bit of a shift, but is the country and the world, is it going down are we where you would have expected us to be back when you were young? And I kind of want to segue into race relations, because you and I have spent a lot of time talking about that. We both agree that race relations are nowhere near where we thought they would have been.
I'll say the ending thing right now there's only two races in this world, the decent and the indecent. We all fucking bleed red. As the world gone, okay, now I'm going to get back to more, but every generation, even before technology, when the horse and the mule and the plow were the tools of what we used, every generation, change is inevitable. Every generation thinks that the upcoming generation is wrong, it's bad. They're not doing it the right way. And that's the natural thing. Now with technology, if somebody farts in Czechoslovakia and it has something to do with the world, It's news at 11. You know, everything's in your living room. And I also found if it's in your face, man, that's what people want to hear. These so-called reality shows. See, I don't have a TV set. I shot it 8 years ago with not a 12 gauge, a 20 gauge, but it took care of business. There was no cathode tube in it, so I was disappointed, man, when there wasn't an explosion. But I live with that discipline, and I don't want to advertise Coke Zero. But I'll tell you one thing. When I'm on a hard interview, even a soft one, there's nothing like a nice, fresh drink of Coke. A good year. A bit juvenile, a little pedestrian, but there's an understated elegance that I feel that the real connoisseur would let me check the bouquet. Can I put a fart in a can? Because I think this one is. You know what a snarfer is? You know what snarfing is?
No, tell me.
Somebody that farts in a bathtub and bites the bubbles. I think that this is a snarfer's delight. Snarfs up. Okay, what were we talking about? About race relations. I think they ought to hang them all.
I think we're both a little disgusted about where things are at
I
right
am
now.
completely disgusted.
For the record, this is this is taking place during day 5 or 6 of the, what town was that? Ferguson, Missouri.
I might take the 5th on the rest of this shit.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, no, that's right. So,
okay, I'm going to help you out.
well, have you ever experienced racism yourself? I mean, you grew up Jewish. Charlie, come here.
I used to get the shit knocked out of me in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, going to school because my people killed Christ. I used to have to fight my way to school all the time. And if somebody reported it was, if I happened to win, which was very seldom because I was getting gang fucked over, I would be called to the principal's office and I would get swats. My dad came to the school, I remember it very well, and the principal told him in no uncertain terms that I was wrong, I was the instigator. I remember moving to California, and good that you mentioned this, man. Okay, we're going to go down some paths here. Inglewood, California, El Segundo, California, Westchester, well, it wasn't Westchester then. All these, Pasadena, a Jewish person could not buy property. This was 1945. Could not rent an apartment. This was after the war. There was a shortage of apartments. They asked for your lineage. You had to prove that you were Catholic. I saw signs in El Segundo and Inglewood that said, niggers and kikes, don't be walking our streets after sundown. I saw it, man. I can picture it right now. You know, and that was the accepted thing, man. So, this is why, okay,
No.
I never heard the N-word in my house, ever. And I said niggers and kikes because that's what I saw written, man. And I really hated the thing. Well, I drew them down and prized them. You know, to this day, Michael, when I was new people, I always let them know that I'm Jewish. You know why? Because I've been friends with people and they didn't know I was Jewish. You don't look Jewish. What the fuck does that mean? I haven't got a shy hook nose and I'm not twiddling my money. I will admit when I was in business, when the Christmas time came, it was a retail music store, I used to get down to the temple with the money changers and sing What a Friend We Have in Jesus, but that's another story. Okay, you got that point.
Yeah.
I know what racial prejudice is, up close and personal. I vote straight Republican ticket, and I am to the right. I'm a bitch to the right of the till of the Hun. That pisses a lot of people off. But I'm for. Don't forget what I said before about two races, decent and indecent. I know it's a judgment call on my part. For all you naysayers out there, yeah, what I perceive as good is decent. What I don't perceive, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. But there is an innate thing that we're all born with. We do know, if we're sane, what's sane? Okay, right. We have to let these little things out. We can't talk. We have to go. Okay, well, we're not doing that shit. I'm talking for the frame of reference that I'm in right now, man. If something hurts me, or if I see somebody hurting a puppy, or a dog, or a cat, or a human being, that's wrong. If I see somebody going like this at an intersection, waving me through. That's right. And that creates vibrations. Some people call it karma. And that dude, whoever gets waved through, is going to wave the next person through. Okay. I was so fucking happy, man, to see a black man elected president of this country. Because I grew up with black people. I played in black clubs, man. Some of my best friends, yeah, you can say that, and it's true, man. I was so happy, and I'll tell you why I was happy. And I was always happy to see black people become chiefs of police, which they were. Supreme Court justices, man. Moving on up, yeah, man, that made me fucking happy. As somebody that knew racial persecution and tension up close and personal, meaning a bloody fucking nose, because I was a certain persuasion. How did they know I was Jewish? Weiss. Oh, well, that wasn't German. What religion are you, the teacher would ask. Okay? When I was in the Army, I was made to go to sermons where I heard the most vehement anti-Semitic sermons preached. If I didn't have to go, but as they said in 1954, you don't have to do this, but we can make you wish that you had, you know, and I had a little few, I don't know how to fight in the Army.
These were Catholic services, yeah?
No, it was white Protestant, those white chapels and the thing, and about how the Jews killed Christ, and we should be, you know, come on, man, this is, yeah. And then by that time, the troops were so fucked up, man, by the time we got back to company quarters, man, I would be in 3 fights by that time. Okay, so I'm just saying that I know what it is. That's why I was happy. I know I'll never live to see a Jewish person be president, but I got to see a Catholic, John Kennedy. I got to see a black guy, kind of black. What a fucking disappointment Obama has been to me. What a major, I know a little bit about these cities because you can't escape it. And there's lackeys like Eric Holder, man, there's criminals. These guys that are doing felonious things under the name and under the shield of leadership and justice. Makes me fucking sick, and it makes me sick to see little fucking black guys and girls and women and men and everybody going, man, we fucking oppressed, man. Don't you? Oh, God, the Rodney King shit. My son happened to be an ex-LAPD officer, man. I used to go on ride-alongs, man. I was riding in the fucking gardens. I was Nickerson Gardens, Jordan Downs. I did that shit, man. I know the whole fucking thing. Don't come crying to me. I thought, okay, now that people were in... I am so sad. I am so fucking... I'm very disappointed, man. And I'm very mad. I'm mad, I don't know who I'm mad at, but I'm very disappointed. Because my brothers, man, and when I say my brothers, I mean black people, man, I mean orange people, I mean yellow people. We're fucking human beings, man. And to see this shit go on by dudes that have never experienced any discomfort because they're under 60 years old, man. Getting the crap and saying, oh man, I'm a victim. I'm a victim of fucking what, man? You never had it so good. Your people, now the older dudes, man, my age that have white hair, black people, I always, you know what I'm saying. Next question, man. I'm very sad. I'm very disgusted. I'm very disappointed. It makes my heart sick. I thought it would be okay now, and it's worse than it ever was in reverse racism. And there's 2 letters that I'll bring out that are killing this country. It's going to kill the world. It's going to open it for a totalitarianistic government under the aegis of the UN or some other ruling body. And those 2 letters are, you know it by now, PC. Where people are afraid to say, they're afraid of their jobs, they're afraid to do anything. Because, and I've seen it work up close and personal within my own family, man, in the workplace.
Well, and I've seen some of your Facebook exchanges, and you've run into what most white people run into, which is if you are anti-Obama, you're obviously a racist.
By some people close to me.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's part of the disappointment. I know you and I share that. Yeah. What? And you know, for the record, what?
Why are we doing this interview?
We're doing this because I want to get who you are. I want to get that recorded because I think it's important.
I have very high standards and values. I used to live in the streets. After headlining my own band, Mort Weiss, Google that one, W-I-S-E, and the Wise Men, and here a record we put out called Wild Boy, written by Eden Abez. That's the dude that wrote the very beautiful Nature Boy that Nat King Cole. A Schwarzer, in case anybody's listening in the Hamptons. A black guy, man. Made very popular, followed by Frank Sinatra. And I knew Eden. I worked with Eden. I recorded with Eden. He was the first hippie with the long hair. He lived up underneath the Hollywood sign. He really did. On nuts and berries and shit. But he was a Jewish dude from Brooklyn. And I remember we met in the studio to record. And it's on, just Google it. You'll see it. You'll see where people have done to it. And you'll see, read it's called Rocky Holman. That was my lead singer. He was an Elvis look-alike type dude, a sex maniac. I covered that in some of my articles. You know, and he did this Wild Boy, and I'm playing tenor sax on it, and I'm making all the jungle sounds. It's a piece of shit. It's a bubblegum piece of shit. And the Eden, who was very religious on it, well, the people that were managing him, because we worked out of the same agency, man. At Ray Charles, it was WAM, World Artist Management on Wilshire Boulevard. I read about quite a few experiences on Mort Report, all about jazz or AAJ. We're doing this thing, man, Wild Boy. Where was I going with this fucking thought? Oh, street. My name was up on the marquee in Fremont in Vegas. I was headlining. I used to work with opposite Wayne Newton before he was really big. It was the Newton brothers. There was Joe King and the Zany. There was the Satellites out of Philly, a heavy-duty rock group. Fucking sax player was, this, I don't know if I ever told you, he's going, he'd jump on top of the piano. Did I tell you this, Mike?
No, keep going.
Motherfucker is playing. He's on top of the piano. Boom, 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 boom. First I ever heard a Fender bass. Boom, 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 boom. Jumps off the piano, does a 360 in the air, forward thing, playing the sax, and lands on his feet, and it was split, playing and zup. I said, what the fuck?
Unbelievable.
I mean, that really, and that kind of, I knew I'd never do that shit, man. But so after doing that, man, and like, you know, all the chicks, the whole thing, man. And by the way, Vegas in the 50s and early 60s was 100% mafia controlled. There was no crime. No crime. Anybody that was a criminal, man, they knew not to even go there because the mafia took care of business, and it was segregated. The blacks had to live in a certain part of outskirts of Vegas. They weren't allowed in the casinos, even there was headliners. I have a friend who's quite popular because he made it very big in Motown. His name is H.P. Barnum. Some of you know him, and if you just Google H.P. He did arrangements for Count Basie, Frank Sinatra, the Platters, people like that, and we knew each other from high school. We played together in bands. And he had an ongoing party over the black part of town, man. You know, I'm not going to say African American. The black friends that I have, man, would not want to be called African Americans. I'd rather be called an indigenous motherfucker. But that's another story, because I am. The party would start going to HP. First there was a club. Open, everything's open 24 hours, man. And I'd come off a show at 2 o'clock in the morning with my band and everything. And, you know, drinking all the time, popping pills, man. And I always carried the clarinet with me. I used to practice in the dressing room between shows, man. It was a circular stage that would turn around, different bands would appear. And there would be a party going to something be coming up, man. It didn't make any difference, man. And I got into some wild fucking party because everybody was fucking loaded on uppers and you know. I don't even want to talk about something, but there were sexual innuendos that were. To this day, man, I was a fucking athlete, man. Well, of course I was on Benzodrine. You know, I wonder if I'm too old to say. Well, anyway, testosterone. No, I did that. I tried that. I was on, says, okay, My son was talking about one of the testosterone's got to be. It's on TV. It's on everything. Well, I don't have a TV, so I don't see that. So I go to my doctor and I said, "How about what do you think of it? Am I okay for testosterone?" He said, "Yeah." So I started taking testosterone injections. This is after I got my divorce. I figured, well, hey man, I'll be free again. I know I'm almost 100 years old, but maybe something will come up. Now that you work out what something might be, and I'm going to be able to, okay. So I knew I had better get off this shit because I live on a ranch in the middle of bumfuck Texas. It's called Round Top, Texas. Population 90 people. I can give you my address if you want to come by. Don't worry about it, man. If you have body armor, you have nothing to worry about, man. The rounds I shoot. Okay. One day, man, I saw this big ass. I go, wow. And I felt, god damn, man. Okay, yeah, it was a cow. So I knew the shit was turning sideways, man, and I decided, and I would go to these markets. There was a market in town, 13 miles, LaGrange, Texas. ZZ Top did something for that top, LaGrange. You can hear, I was going freaking nuts in the aisles, man. I'd be looking for Cheerios or something, but I would just be watching chicks, man, and it wasn't always chicks. And then I decided, well, I think I better kick this shit. And I kicked it. I kicked the cold turkey, and I went into 3 weeks of withdrawals, and that withdrawal shit was hardcore, man. I cried at everything. I cried at the supermarket opening. I cried when there was a meteor that hit somewhere in Bogoslavia. I cried reading that. I was emotional. I would call Michael up and he's, oh fuck it, it's a crybaby. Hey, hang up on me, man. But where are we getting this from? Oh, the party at H.B. Barnum's house. Okay, coming back. All right, Vegas headlines. Everything started going downhill. I was on. It's all been written about. This is all the articles have been written about. I wrote some. A lot of my reviewers and critics worldwide have picked up on my story because I stopped playing for 40 years and all that shit. I was on the street. I lived on the street in L.A. I was on drugs. I was on cheap wine. I could only afford T-Bird. I was living with some woman who turned out to be just about my wife. There was only one problem. She was still married to her husband. We had a couple kids. And, in and out, we'd fight and the police would come and all that shit. I drove a yellow cab for a year at night in Hollywood. I can write a whole book on that. I drove a good humor truck. Ice cream, I don't know, do they have good humor all over the country?
You don't see it anymore.
You don't see it anymore.
Yeah.
The bells, ding, 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 ding. I was all fucked up in the head, man, drinking wine, driving a good humor truck in the poorest black neighborhood in Los Angeles in the wintertime, selling ice cream, man. With the bells going, and I was kind of half nuts anyway. I had psoriasis, not cirrhosis, psoriasis of the armpits, and pus and everything was running out, and it gets cold in Los Angeles in the winter, and everything would freeze to my side, and I'd get off these kids, yeah man, Mr. Mel, yeah, no good, ding, 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 ding. I didn't have any money to eat or live on. We would take the trucks, they would stock the trucks. I was living in a motel called the Sunset Motel. You could reach it out and touch both walls simultaneously in the room. Okay, it was a Sunset Boulevard in Vermont. I would wait to get that good humor truck. I would pull out of the garage, get around the corner, open that motherfucker up, man, and start eating popcorn, sidewalk sundaes. I lived off the good humor truck. Okay, just get that in front. Okay, I would stop, man, and the kids say, I want something. Okay, here you go. And he wants something way in the back. So I would reach, go for the psoriasis. All the skin would come up, man, pus and blood. I don't know if I ever told you this, man. It was running down, man. I was fucking horrible. I was not in the best state of mind. I was starving. The chick I was living with was on again, off again. It was a violent thing. There were punch outs. No, I wasn't here to hear. She would beat the shit out of me. This was a hardcore type situation. I loved her. Love was grand. But that's the way it was. I ended up going to jail many times. I've been in jail. I've been arrested that I can remember 10 times. Mostly in Southern California. There's 2 years of my life, and I told you this, Michael, I can't tell you where I was. I know I was in Southern California. I don't know where I lived. I lived in every fucking flea bag motel when I had the money. There weren't agencies. I remember when crash pads came out, man. It was great, man. bottom line, I was on the street living in laundromats because there were 24 hours. The good humor job, you get paid after 2 weeks. I get called into the office and the suits are there and the guy said, you know, Weiss, we inventory the trucks. You know, we know what we put in and we know how much money you make. Well, it turns out, Mort, you owe us 65. I was living off the food in that truck. And they said, and I didn't have 65. And they said, I'll tell you what, you know, somehow we just don't think you're cut out to be a good humor man. And I said, you know, I think you're right. And I said, let's just shake hands. And they said, that's cool, you don't owe us anything. That was that. So,
well, how did you go from that scenario to sitting on a 40-foot yacht?
No, it was my biggest personal was 30 foot.
30-foot yacht racing to Ensenada from Newport Beach.
Well, in 1965, I stopped. I realized I wasn't going to make it in music because I decided I wanted to play just straight jazz, clarinet, and nobody hires jazz clarinet players then. They don't do it today. When Bird came on, the clarinet was the guitar of the 1940s. Artie Shaw, Benny Goodman, people like that. And when I say guitar, that's what everybody played, the clarinet. The kids, Jewish especially, many handed the clarinet and he played. Well, it came completely out of favor when Bird hit it. Bird being Charlie Parker, bebop came in, which I became a bebop musician. I loved, but it's so difficult on a clarinet that everybody put it down because everybody wanted to sound like Bird, and you couldn't do it on a clarinet except Buddy DeFranco. What's his name? Tony Scott, and he's got a long Italian name. Those guys were doing it. John Laporta, these people were doing it, and I thought, well, fuck, man, I can do that too, and I did, and that was it. And I fell in love with it. I went to college. I became hooked on bebop, modern jazz, playing the wrong instrument. If I would have been playing sax, trumpet, or anything else, man, I'd be a jazz household name right now. Okay, right now I'm a critic's and reviewers' household name. People that really know. Does that end? Oh, and then I went to work at Wallach's Music City. That was that was the biggest chain of music stores maybe in the country. They were at Sunset and Vine. It's Music City, some of you oldies know that. Sunset and Vine.
And you're saying you stopped your drugs?
The clarinet.
How about the drugs and the alcohol?
I was still drinking and I was still using uppers to get to the job because I was staying in weird places and I had a punch a time clock, and I would be, you know, I would ended up driving on the bus when I got transferred to the Torrance store, which is a 3-hour bus ride, and I'd be all hungover from the night before. And this is all, by the way, and my article is one of the highest and the most read articles on the All About Jazz site. It's called, and I named it purposely because I knew people would look at it. It's called Sex and the Jazz Musician, The Brutal Truth.
It's a great article.
That's coming up on 22,000 hits in less than 2 years. I tell everything on that one. That's worth it. I put everything down, and I finally kicked everything, drugs, and around after my stay in a padded cell in 1967, because I went through a schizoid psychosis because I didn't eat for 3 days. I just took bennies and drinking vodka and uppers, and I locked myself out of my apartment in Lakewood, California. I couldn't get back in. I was barefooted and I was hearing voices. The CIA was watching me. Guys were jumping out of trees, and they really do, folks. When somebody's really fucked up, they really do. When you hear voices, and the radio was talking to me. I had a car, a very nice car at the time. It was one of the first. What was that with the Brougham top? Lincoln made it.
Mach 1?
No, that
was later.
Oh God, the Cougar.
The Cougar.
The Cougar with the pop-up. But I left that son of a bitch in the middle of Venice Boulevard in La Cienega because they were all after me and they were broadcasting. And I was being followed by thousands of people, and I ended up okay. So I put everything down in 1970. By this time, I was managing. After I got out of that padded cell, I decided I'm really changing my life, and I started taking care of business. The store that I worked at, I became a district manager at Orange County, Wallace Music, across from South Coast Plaza, which is a world-renowned, there was a bean field when I was there. And then Wallace Music City, a chain of 7 stores, went out of business in 1978, and in 1979 I opened my own music store right next to one of the stores, and it was a brick and mortar store. My wife, Jean, was at the time as a social worker for the County of Orange. We built that store. We built it. We pounded nails. We made all the fixtures because we couldn't afford them. And I kept that store going and other stores that I built and going, and a music school for 30 years until the onset of the internet, when you could upload music sheets and download and sideload and all that. And I had a house worth $1.5 million overlooking the Pacific Ocean in San Clemente. I had yachts. I joined yacht clubs. I was a Commodore. I was a captain of a Fleet 21 Cal 25 club. Complete different life. I've worn many different hats. Okay, and 2001, I get some junk mail saying, "You want to play jazz?" I hadn't played for 40 years, and I dusted off the clarinet. And they were having auditions at Irvine Valley College, and I made the audition. And the professor was so excited, man, when he heard me play with the J.B. Abersold play-alongs. I practiced for 14 days, and his enthusiasm got my dick so hard. It was one of the happiest days of my life, Michael. I told you about one happy day when I was having that operation. That was the other. And I came home, and Jean, my wife, she never saw me that happy. And my dad was on the line, and he was getting into his dotage, and he was starting to see things, and I love my dad, and he did a lot of great things for my grandchildren, man. And we had the voicemail at the time, and he was living in a place called Leisure World for older people, retired people. You could get in there when you were 55, Mike.
Wow.
That's what I was considered old.
That's scary.
Yeah, and I'm 79 now, and I was like, we always call it
Seizure World.
Seizure World and Disneyland and the Dead. There was a lot of great names. So my dad's on the floor, but he can get to the phone, and he leaves this message. And this is what he taught. Mort, I've been calling you for days. What did I ever do to you? Why do you hate? Because Gene said, you're going to have to listen to this, and I know you're happy, and it's probably going to spoil your good. Why don't you come help me? I can't, I've fallen, I can't get up. And I'm laughing, man, because it was so fucking horrible that I couldn't transport myself there immediately and help, So I called the Leisure World Security, okay, but I was still happy. And then I just started doing records, and I was cutting records, and I was bringing world-class people in, and I was paying them. And then they would work with me in nightclubs through Hollywood and LA and outskirts. And, like I say, man, Google Mort Weiss. And this is a quick synopsis, but read the profile that this British person, and I'll leave the gender up to you, but if you read it, you'll know damn well what the gender was. Because that person desires to remain genderless for some fucking reason, but did a great thing on More to Come. Okay, I'm out of that one. And yeah, I almost cried back there when you were talking about the race thing and all that. I don't cry too easy, but the sense of frustration and sadness lives with me, man, and I know I'm not the only person. I'm so sad. Rodney King, I know this doesn't resonate with my son because he had to deal with it day in and day out, but Rodney King was a thug, but he was a human being, and it really got to me when he said those words. And I thought it was actually pretty fucking hip for him to say it. And being a thug and a street person, it was almost inspirational, man. I'm tearing up here. Because he said, the essence of what he said, man, was, he said, can't we all get along? I couldn't believe it, man, when that cat said that. And I say cat because that's what musicians talk. Can't we all get along? I don't know if he was told to say that, but he said it with such sincerity, man, that my heart went out to the cat, man. Dude came across with something. I have no ill feelings, man. Okay, but if you don't understand where I'm coming from by now, you never will. So those of you who don't understand where I'm coming from, fuck you. Next question.
Okay, well let's close it with this. Why do you continue at this stage of your life to still make records? What is it you're hoping to achieve with the musical message that you're sending out?
Well, I feel I have something to say artistically, musically. My ego, and ego is not a pejorative term always. People take, oh, well, he's got a big ego. Yeah, I certainly hope so. Ego makes people get on a freeway and get in line in traffic for 12 hours a week so they can go advance in their day slave, their 9 to 5, their job, so they can come home and tell the wife, hey, you know, Mr. Big, he just said I did good. And he gets a kiss, and that means a lot, man. Well, that's fucking ego. There ain't nothing wrong with it. And those are people doing their things to be people, to help society, to help civilization, to help fucking mankind, man. Let's go bowling, dude. Yeah, and that's why I make records, because I want a part of Mort Weiss, because I feel I'm rather special. And if you've been with me this far, you know damn well I am. And if you heard me play, you said, this is one badass motherfucker, man, and meaning it in the best way. And I want to do something for my son to make him proud of me. That's why I want to jump out of a fucking airplane. You know, the thought... yeah, well, okay, I'm a little nuts too. Yeah, I can't wait to get to be 14,000 feet, man, and jump out of the fucking... That's why I work out, man. That's why I work out continuously, and I was to the point... I have a porch that's 80 feet long. Sometimes it gets to be 110 degrees in Texas where I live. And I can't go out in the heat and do it. And I don't do it in the morning because I'm asleep, and late at night I'm practicing. So in the day, man, I walk on the porch. Okay, well, it gets hot on the porch. The house is 80 feet long, too. I have a straight thoroughfare. 66 times around is 1 fucking mile. I was so sick when Mike came out to see me. I was all hooked up with oxygen, and I tried to work out. I couldn't make 6 laps. Well, I'm doing 66 again, man. And like I'm feeling as good now as I ever did in my life. And I probably have 3, 4, 5 years left. And I am going to go out swinging, man. Punching, kicking, and screaming. As long as I have some kind of help. If I have tubes stuck up my ass and the whole thing, man, and I'm not enjoying the life, I have things concealed, man, that as long as I have strength, man, I can end it. And I fucking will, and I know it makes me happy that my son, I feel that he respects that goddamn thing. You know, and it ain't gonna be, well, yeah, what, it's a spinal fuck you, they killed themselves. Yeah, well, I had a mother that killed herself, and I had a daughter that killed herself. And, you know, I know about that too. But if I'm 85 years old, man, and I had to have somebody wipe my ass, man, it's been a lot of laughs. Boom. And I've even talked with my son, who's a gun expert and a federal firearms instructor. I like to know things, man. Should I put it up against myself? Or should I have it 2 inches away? Should I do it in the mouth? The whole thing? What if you can't? I have a heavy trigger pull on my 38. That's starting to worry me too, man. So I've been practicing pulling that trigger with my dick. Now, the shot pattern is going to be a little weird. Now, do you believe that? Here, have a ball, man. I have backup on that. Yeah, free stream of consciousness is not necessarily free. Let's remember, that's my line. James Joyce, Ulysses, William Faulkner, The Sound and the Fury. That's to show you I'm a little educated. I read that shit, man. I've read it all. The Dubliners, You Can't Go Home Again, Thomas Wolfe, Time and the River, Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby, The Not So Great Gatsby, The Dubliners of James Joyce. I've been there, done that. I cannot. Now, this might give you something to answer, Michael, or a question. Are we running out of film?
Nope.
Tape?
We're
We don't
good.
do that anymore,
We're good.
do we? I know. I love music, I love great work, I love art, I love artistic things. I love opera, I love sunsets, I love the trees, I love to hear the wind in the trees. I love that. I cannot and will not read, look, see, or hear anything of any great artistic meaning. Why? Because it gets to my heart so strong, because beauty often hurts. I can only handle it if I'm making the beauty, and I've had to stop in a performance sometimes because I'm starting to lose it. Life and the energies of the life force, I've always appreciated, but as one gets near the end of the trail, the roses with the thorns always smell that much sweeter. And to go see a Puccini opera and see Madame Butterfly, where she draws that dagger there, or Tristan and Isolde from the Gotterdammerung, of Richard Wagner, the biggest anti-Semite in the world. I took a lot of doing, man, for me, because I love the cat. I used to have a statue in my room as a kid. I smashed that motherfucker when I found out, but I love this music. How do you separate art from the fucking person? I've had to work on that, and it's cool now. I can't look at a beautiful, I can't listen to any Puccini. It's too beautiful. Oh, well, you're denying yourself. No, because I did it all. I know what it means. It's just a little aside, a little something. I digress. Is there any closing statement?
No.
You should unzip my flowers.
No. Just any. Go ahead and give a closing thought.
Closing thought is, I think supper's ready.
That'll work. Thank you very much, Dad.
Love you.
Love you too.
Zing dong ba, zilira ba di ba aradaga yiga du papa se lula hagaduka ba ni ha